Welcome to ZIPS Nation Insider. My name is Jacob Farrar, and as always, Grant.
How's it going?
Welcome back. Another week, another weekend.
Massive weekend to
Oh
talk
my
about
goodness, of ZIPS athletics. The athletic department put out a post over the weekend summarizing, and it was a banner weekend for ZIPS athletics. And the first thing I thought of when I saw that is we got a lot to talk about on the next episode.
A gauntlet over the weekend,
Yeah,
to say the least.
It was fantastic. Maybe we should just dive right in, summarize kind of what happened over the weekend, and then maybe go to some individual sports.
Yeah.
So 3 MAC championships.
Three
Over the
in
weekend.
one weekend.
In one weekend.
So we want to start with men's basketball.
Men's basketball.
So they secured the regular season MAC champions against their win against Kent State this past week. So huge for them. They've been really hot. I think 25-6 is the record this year. So doing really well. Then also we have swim and dive, who secured their 11th MAC championship in the last 12 seasons. So that's just
can we call that a dynasty?
Easily. They won by almost 100 points. So Ohio was 100 points. They were in second, 100-point difference there. So it really wasn't close.
So 11 out of the last 12. They're now on 2+ hands with rings.
Yes, 2+ hands.
Starting to go into the toes.
Safe to say, if you were on the swim team here within the last decade, you've won at least a couple MAC championships, which is insane.
Pretty safe to say that.
So huge win for them.
And men's track and field indoor.
Men's track and field
Took the championship as well. Again, just another capping off a fantastic season for them. And the women's team track got second.
Yes.
Second place.
Incredible.
So a good weekend for indoor track and field. And then there's some individual accolades as well, including Bismack Kipchircher was named MVP and Freshman of the Year for indoor track and field. Also had Felicity Clintamar and Abby, who was a guest on the podcast.
What do you know?
Felicity was named MAC Freshman Swimmer of the Year, and Abby was most outstanding. Also had Jack Poist, baseball player. Jack hit for the cycle, which does not happen very often.
Not at all.
In pros or whatever, hit for the cycle, named MAC Player of the Year, or excuse me, Player of the Week.
Yeah.
Maybe getting ahead of myself.
Here. We're just starting up.
Poist getting a little ahead of ourselves here. But they also fly the flag type situation, beating Purdue in extra innings 10-9. I think that summarizes the weekend. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything.
We also had women's lacrosse.
Oh, women's lacrosse, that's right.
They had a big win against Butler.
Butler here.
11-5.
So all in all, I think if you're in ZIPS athletics, pretty happy about what happened. ZIPS Nation, great weekend. Obviously, the big thing was the Kent win. It was like a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those where they're down,
clawing from behind almost the entire game.
Now, you were there. Did you feel like the game was in doubt? I
don't think it ever felt like it was away.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever felt like it got away. I think it was always single digits, 5, 7 points. Got into the last couple minutes and they kind of took over and ended up coming out with the win.
I just knew, I felt good about it. I just wasn't sure they were going to get to that point.
Yeah.
But got to it. Fantastic. Just a great atmosphere. Cutting the nets. It hasn't happened here for a while. Clinching the MAC championship at home.
Whiteout game, sellout crowd, very electric.
Yeah. It was fun to be part of, and also just capping off a great season. It's interesting thinking about this team and kind of flash forward a little bit with senior days coming up this weekend. It's going to be a different team next year, so we got to kind of relish what we have and be grateful for what we have this year, because it's going to look a little different next year. So.
It almost seems like every year we're reloading, and we're just hoping Gross can put the pieces together.
But we talked about Coach Gross about this, I think the first time he was here, that we are Akron's buyers. We're buyers in this market. So
100%.
that's a good place to be. Fingers crossed that we can continue that going into next season. Obviously, there's still a lot to go. One game at a time. They have they beat Toledo. They got Buffalo on Saturday. But let's talk about that Toledo win, because I think Evan, when we interviewed Evan a couple weeks ago, he mentioned this. I don't know if it was on air or off, that they had not beaten Toledo on the road since 2013.
I saw that stat and it almost didn't seem right.
And I went back and checked. I mean, obviously, there wasn't wrong, but I was kind of surprised by that. Obviously, they beat Toledo here in neutral court, but had not beaten Toledo basically since Coach Gross had gotten here.
Tough place to play, and Toledo's always been a good program the last decade, but never would have thought haven't won there in over 10 years.
Sure. So last night we're talking about obviously that win over Toledo, 96-87. Again, another game with multiple players in double figures. Six players in double figures. Shot over 50% from three-point land. I mean, they're just I don't know, a typical Akron basketball game.
It is. Usually you have 5, 6, 7 players in double figures. That's a rarity, but it almost seems like it's happening every week. So.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, just a solid team win. I love and they mentioned this on the broadcast. Definitely I love, and Coach Gross talked about this last week. All gas and no brakes. That was last night's game. Solid team win. Up next they have Buffalo here, senior night on Friday at 7:00. Number of seniors, 5 seniors will be recognized, and of those 5, 4 are key contributors to the team, including a couple starters.
Almost identical last year.
Yeah.
It's really wild how that happened.
So, and that's all I have to say about men's basketball. Jump to women's basketball. So close. So
all these games, just hoping they pull one through here. Kind of been on the wrong side of things for a while. Kind of fighting to get back in that win column. Had a couple games against Western and Kent State this past week. They're actually playing tonight.
They're playing tonight at senior night, last home game of the season. Wishing all of those seniors well, including Alexis Mobley, who was here, who's been a guest on ours. And then they play to end out the season, Central Michigan. So our hope with 2 games to get a win, break the streak. Don't want to end the season in that kind of downward spiral that they've been on. But hopefully within the next couple games they can get something. Let's jump really quick. We talked about baseball. They actually played today, despite the weather that we're having. They played, beat Oakland 11-5. It's the first of 8 home games here at Skeels Field. And then softball. Softball also played over the weekend. We'll be playing this week. We have Coach Nicholson will be here on a second on the show. But they again continue their away journey. We're going to talk to them a little bit about that. But they play tomorrow on Thursday, and then another 4-game series down in 2 games against 2 opponents. 4 games, 2 opponents down in Murray, Kentucky.
What a long stretch for them. I mean, they were just in Eastern Kentucky, finishing up that tournament and then jumping back here.
I wonder if they qualify for a Kentucky residency.
Right, might as well just stay at this point.
We're let's not hold Coach Nicholson any longer. Coach, we're excited to have him on the show. Thanks, Coach. Have a seat. Welcome to Akron. Do we need to take you around to kind of show you some of the sights?
Yeah, I feel like I've been gone so long, I forgot whatever everything is around here, but it's okay.
Well, it's kind of the nature of this kind of preseason on the road. It's not like it's a surprise. So welcome to ZIPS Nation Insider, powered by Fear the Root Collective. We're excited to have you here. Before we get into kind of learning about your background and what you see for this upcoming season, let's talk a little bit about this pre-conference schedule. So you guys are 10-9 at this point, played 19 games. All of it's been on the road. The season started a month ago. As you think about those games, what's the goal from kind of scheduling this? Is it team chemistry, finding the team chemistry, evaluating players, getting ready for the MAC play? Kind of what does that strategy look like when you schedule all of these games here in the preseason, so to speak?
I think all of those are really a part of it. I mean, I think being on the road as much as we're on the road for the first 5 weeks of the season, I think that's when your team chemistry really grows. I think it's a big piece of it. So we spent 10 days in Texas. Obviously, we're back-to-back weekends in Kentucky. A lot of time on the bus, airplane, hotels together, all those kind of things. So I think that definitely is a piece of it. This year we've kind of tried to get some people in the game that are maybe backups, but tried to get them some opportunity, just see them develop a little bit. Those kind of things. So I think all those pieces kind of come into play. We played a pretty solid schedule. I think it's always a challenge for any northern team, especially a Mid-American Conference team, to be above 500 going into the conference play. There's only 3 of us right now, and the big piece of that is just everybody's on the road every weekend. So it's a challenge, and there's definitely challenges that go with it. But we've handled it pretty well, and hopefully we can kind of close out this long trip this weekend and with some more wins and keep it going.
Is this season any different than past seasons as far as the number of games on the road, or is it just this is kind of the nature of the beast, so to speak?
No, it's really just the nature of the beast, and fortunately for us, we open conference at home.
Yeah.
There's been a couple years ago we went on this same journey, and then we opened conference at Northern Illinois.
But I think you start. I think you play a series, and then you're on the road again, though.
Yeah, well, we're on the road again. We're home a lot in April.
Yeah, there we go. I was just saying, I was looking at the schedule, and you play. I can't remember who the opponent is, but you got a series, and then right back out there. But you're finishing strong here in Akron. And, along the way, you guys had some success. You had a win against Michigan State that I think went under the radar a little bit. I know we talked about it, but Michigan State, that's again, we like the fly the flag type.
Absolutely.
Love taking care of those Power 4 conferences. And obviously you beat MacFo, Bowling Green, and then a win against Dayton. So teams that we've heard of. So it's, there's some successes along the way. So this is your third season here in Akron. One of the things I wanted to ask you, because I didn't see it as I was kind of preparing and learning your bios, how did you get involved in women's softball? We've had coaches from many different sports, and we could see that path they played, and then kind of went into coaching. But what was your start in coaching softball?
Well, the answer is by accident.
Okay,
that really is the answer. Back years ago, I was finishing up grad school, and I was a baseball player, and I was trying to get a baseball internship, get volunteer spot, get my foot in the door a little bit on the baseball side, and it just never worked out.
Wow.
And as I was kind of finishing grad school, I need to do something as an internship for my last piece and get my graduate degree, my master's degree, and then figure out what I'm going to do after that. And I just kind of fell into a great situation. I was at Central Arizona College. We won a national championship that year. The head coach decided he was going to take the baseball job.
Oh, wow.
So kind of ironic how things work out, right? And
you couldn't get a baseball job. The softball coach takes it.
Yeah, and the plan was originally we'll all go be his assistant. And the AD there at the time was like, no, we want you to coach this team at least for a year as an interim coach. And so I coached the softball team for a year there and ended up staying there for 11 years.
Wow.
And kind of just went from there. So by accident, really the answer.
I guess the stars were aligned, so to speak.
Yeah.
Celestial mechanics, I like to call it. So that's cool. What a cool situation. So speaking of coaching stops, you've had success in everywhere you've been. You talked about Central Arizona, Ball State, Arizona State, and most recently at Texas A&M in Kingsville, where you've done some 2 consecutive NCAA tournament appearances. So kind of walk us, I gave a summary, but what was it in Akron, what was going on here that kind of led you to this opportunity?
Well, I think, one of the things, so when I first got to Ball State, our first series in MAC was here at Akron. And at the time, Ball State has very good facilities now, but at the time when I was there, 2007, when I started there, nobody would say that they had very good facilities at that point. And our first road trip was here, and I was kind of, wow.
Grass is greener a little bit.
The facilities are really nice here, for the field, the indoor facility, all those kind of things. So that always kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And then another piece of it was just, for our family, after being in Arizona again and being in Texas, when the opportunity to kind of come back to the Midwest presented itself, I think that was a big piece of it too. The kids were excited to come back to the Midwest. They really, really enjoyed being in Muncie, Indiana, believe it or not. But they did, and we have some good friends still there and those kind of things. And then my parents now that we're here, my family's only 4 hours away, so all those factors kind of play in. And when the opportunity presented itself, it was something that we wanted to do as a family, and obviously we're excited to be here, and things are moving in a good direction.
Yeah. Well, great. We're glad you're here. Seen some success. Let's talk a little bit about last season. So 23 and 29 overall with an 11-14 record in the MAC. What were some of the kind of key takeaways, lessons learned from last season?
I think the big thing for us last year, there were days where we started 6 freshmen last year.
Wow.
And many of those 6 freshmen are still starting for us or playing key roles for us, if not starting. And so the experience that a lot of them gained in not a great season. We would have liked to have done a little bit better, and we thought we were capable of doing a little bit better. But the experience that those guys have gained kind of through that process, I think is really starting to show dividends this year. Even in the fall, and definitely as we kind of got back here in the spring and started getting ready for the season, you just see a different level of maturity on the field. And a lot of that is some of those girls haven't played 50 games. Yeah. And there's no substitute for it, right? So, we're a very different team now, and some of the things that we went through last year and losing some close games and those kind of things, I think have kind of paid dividends moving forward. I still feel like we're in the process of learning how to win. Like the big thing is, can you get over the hump? Yeah. Right. But I definitely, we're more talented. We've gotten more talented every year that I've been here. And I think that now we're still pretty young, but we're more experienced than obviously we were a year ago.
Got it. And you also had, despite, that record, it is what it is, right? Sure. But you had several players, a handful of players that garnered some All-MAC, consideration. You had 3 that were All-MAC second team, and then Sophia Weigess, Megan Lee, and Lily Sullivan, and then both Lily and Sophia were All-MAC freshmen. Yep. So, despite that record, there were successes that came from last season. So how do you take that, and obviously the off season, there's some things to work on. What were some of those things, kind of those key things that off season we're going to focus on these things?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece for us is, our offense last year was, a little pedestrian maybe is a baseball term for it. Could have been a little bit better. But we're starting to see flashes of where our potential is offensively. And, up and down a little bit as a pitching staff last year, we're a little bit more consistent right now than we were probably a year ago. But I think the big thing is where we're at offensively. We're right now, not that we care a ton about batting average, but we're hitting around 300 as a team. Okay. On pace for some more extra base hits and those kind of things, scoring more runs. So I think, that was a big piece of it. And a lot of those girls went home this summer and put a lot of time in. It's a constant learning process. Sure. It never ends. But I think that we're getting to a spot where we have better opportunity to compete on the offensive side, and it keeps us in games. So that's a big piece. Yeah.
You mentioned something about this summer, and I'm not apologize for ignorance on softball, but is it the same thing with baseball where they're in summer leagues? What does the summer look like for a softball player? And then how do you take, hey, this is what you need to work on, and how are they able to do that?
Most of them are training on their own.
Training on their own. Oh, wow. Okay.
There's a lot of that. Sometimes, depending where they're from, sometimes they'll get together with high school teammates or club ball teammates that are also playing at other schools and train with them. So there's a little bit of that. Some of the girls, sometimes they're after their freshman year, they're still young enough to keep playing club ball.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's 18 and under, so it doesn't matter what where they're at. So. Sometimes that happens a little bit, but we're starting to get some of the leagues like baseball has the Cape Cod League and all the other leagues around the country, and we're starting to get a little bit of that. It's a little different model. The thing that scares us as coaches, honestly, do I really want my players going into the transfer portal market because somebody
stay in the gym, don't be seen by anyone.
Somebody in those leagues is in their ear telling them, oh, hey, you can, and so we've kind of shied away from it a little bit in the process. Plus, I think a lot of times they're ready for a little time off. Yeah. We grind and train. We start Labor Day weekend, and our season ends in May sometime. And I think that many of them, especially the ones that have played a lot through the season, they're ready for some time off.
They're ready for that work-life balance, so to speak. That makes sense. So this year you added 70 players, couple 5 freshmen, two transfer students. Who do you expect to step up amongst those, as well as any other returning?
Yeah, well, just from the freshman class, right now Sydney Selker's leading our team in a lot of offensive categories. She's a two-way player. She can pitch and plays the outfield, hits, those kind of things. So she's had off to a great start offensively. Hasn't pitched a ton for us, a little bit here and there. But what she's doing offensively has been a big help to our lineup. And then Andrea Day's playing most of the, she's probably played in 80% of the games. Scuffled a little bit early, has huge high ceiling. But has, sometimes with freshmen, it's a little different world, right?
Yeah, so, there's a big step between club and high school and coming into Division I.
Yep, for sure. And then we have, we're again just talking about the young kids. Maddie Lee's thrown a fair bit for us. this year. And then we have Maddie Jamrog, who is a redshirt freshman. She was here last year. We redshirted her, and she's off to a very good start in the circle right now. I mean, ERA right around 2. I don't know off the top of my head what her record is, but she has given us some very key innings over the early part of the season. So, yeah, our youth is doing a good job. And then I think, too, a lot of those girls that, got all that experience last year are kind of building on that this year. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So speaking of recruiting, how do you find – I mean, I looked at the roster, and I think a third are from here in Ohio. The rest are from outside of the state. How do you find them? What's your kind of recruiting process? I mean, don't give away any secret sauce, right?
No. There's no secrets. There's no secrets.
But, it's interesting to see these, and it's not just softball, but a lot of the other sports here on campus are able to recruit students from other places. You'd think a regional college, it's going to be all Ohio kids, but in this case, it's not for you. So how do you see them? I know you have your camps that you do, but what's kind of that process to find these these talented players and bring them to Akron?
Sure. Well, there's 2 pieces to it. So most of the girls, all the girls from Texas are girls that I knew when I was down there.
Got it. Okay.
In fact, Brooke Civic and Megan Lee were coming to Kingsville to play for me at Kingsville.
Oh, wow.
And then when I took the job here, it was a high priority to get those 2 to come with us.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that happened. And then our other 2 girls from Texas are a year younger, Katie Cantrell, Haley Sanchez. Those are girls that I knew from recruiting down there.
Got it.
So that's a piece of it. But as far as the rest of the group, so everybody goes to the same tournaments.
Got it.
So yeah, and because we're not really recruiting from a high school, we're recruiting more at club tournaments.
Okay.
Everybody's at the same tournament. It might be Midwest regional, but it's teams from Michigan, teams from Indiana, teams from Pennsylvania, Ohio, obviously, Kentucky. Yeah. So you're watching all the same kids, right? So, and everybody's watching all the same players. So that's kind of why, not everybody from our roster is from Ohio. Interestingly enough, the 2025 class, next year's freshman class, is entirely Ohio kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think a piece of that is as we continue to grow and as we continue to get better, interestingly enough, it opens up Ohio for us.
Yeah.
Which is weird, right? Because the girls now in Ohio go, oh, hey, Akron, that's a place we can go. Like, they're not bad now.
Yeah, that actually makes perfect sense. I mean, even when we're recruiting students to attend school here, just business school or whatever that is, there's this idea of what Akron is, and maybe shy away from it. But as you start winning, that culture of winning, that winning cures a lot of things, including being able to now, I guess, recruit in your own state.
Well, it's crazy because when we first got here, the girls from Ohio would tell us, "No, I don't want to come visit. I'm not interested in Akron." And we could get people from Texas or California or wherever else. Yeah, I'll come take a look. And they get here and they're like, "Wow, it's way nicer than I would have thought it was going to be." And you'd be amazed how often you hear that as coaches. People have this notion of what Akron looks like as far as an institution, and they get here and they go, "This is nothing like I thought it was going to look like." So it's interesting.
That's fantastic. We've heard that with some of the other student athletes that we've interviewed on the podcast. Of once they get here and they see the facilities, it definitely is not what they envisioned when they hear the term Akron. You talked about your baseball background. One thing I wanted to ask you is about kind of advanced analytics. Where is that in softball? Is that for you, your coaches? Do you look at WAR and all of those other types of things? Is that something that's kind of woven its way into college softball?
I think it definitely has.
Okay.
Yep. And the tricky piece is some people can afford more technology than others. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
It just is what it is. Some people have 5 managers that are breaking down every second of game film, and we have 3 coaches that maybe don't have quite as much time to do that. But I will say, like, analytics is still relevant in our world. WAR, OPS, those kind of things, super relevant to us. We're probably, to a degree, shifting and those kind of things more than ever before. It's just in general in the sport of softball. I mean, we do it too. We're not a huge shift team, but you'll see people sometimes play 5 infielders against certain hitters, all kinds of stuff, and it's all driven by analytics and spray charts and all those kind of things.
100%. So I guess Moneyball has its way, and it's finding its way into softball.
And it was a good movie too.
Yeah, fantastic. It was a great movie. So we're here with Coach Craig Nicholson, the head softball coach here on campus at the University of Akron. I wanted to ask you about kind of the surge in popularity of women's sports. We see volleyball has made a surge. Women's basketball, obviously, Caitlin Clark and what that's done with women's basketball. But softball has also seen a huge surge. Matter of fact, last year, 2024, I had to write it down because I couldn't remember what WCWS, but the Women's College World Series drew 2 million, a record viewers. What do you attribute this popularity to? What is it that's causing this? I mean, it's great, by the way, it's fantastic. But what do you think? What's causing it?
I think there's probably a few different factors from a softball standpoint, but the level of play, like when you watch the best teams in the country play, and it's not just the best teams in the country. When you watch the level of play in the MAC, it's really good softball. It's high level, and then you take it maybe to the next level with the teams that are playing in the World Series and those kind of things. The NCAA and Oklahoma City, who hosts the World Series, have really invested. They added I don't even know how many seats, and I think they added something crazy like 9,000 seats on the stadium. Those tickets are, they're sold out every year right now. And then the draw on TV, I think, is a big piece of it too. But I also think the willingness of the female athlete, and this is not a knock on the male athletes, okay, but the willingness of the female athletes to kind of engage, especially with the youth. I think has created fans even from people that are not, that don't play the game. So you've always kind of had the fan base of the young softball players or the young basketball players or that kind of stuff. But I think that a lot of the female athletes do such a good job engaging with our youth that they create fans that came from nowhere. They're not fans because they were playing. They may be in the band, but they come to watch a game and they develop these relationships, or they go to their school and spend some time with them, or those kind of things. And I think that's a big piece of the growth in all women's sports. Just the want to and the ability to engage with the young people, and then the parents come and the parents are bought in too, and then the young girl that started the relationship. They are gone and they graduate and they go off to college, and the parents are still coming to games because now they're fans too. They're hooked. So I think it's a combination of the level of play and the willingness to do those things.
And again, back to the level of play, it's a rising tide raises all ships, right? Absolutely. So as the level of play gets, that trickles its way down to the MAC. It's not just Big 12, SEC. It finds its way to MAC baseball or softball, and the players that we have here. So Akron has had a very rich softball history. 1977, the first time there was a team. Included in that history is a couple of visits to the National Championship Games, 84 and 85. So obviously that history, how do you kind of build on the history, but also you want to put your own stamp on it, Coach Nick's stamp on Akron baseball. How do you kind of balance those two things?
Yeah, I think, they're obviously a place where there's been success. It's not recent success. But there's been success, and I think that it is a place that you can have success. We've already seen it happen, right? So, as far as my stamp, I don't. That doesn't really mean anything to me. Let's go win games. Let's go win championships. Let's make sure that our players have an awesome experience here, and we do everything we can to try to make the experience as best it can be. And I think if we can do those things, all the process pieces, if you can do those things, sometimes the wins and losses will just take care of themselves. And continuing to recruit great talent, continuing to coach them up as best as our staff can do, and then going and competing at the highest level we can compete at.
Got it. So you have 4 kids. Were any of them athletes? You play sports? So how do you balance being a coach and being a dad and turning that switch on or off? Probably off. It's probably harder to turn it off. How do you balance that?
Well, first of all, you miss a lot of games.
I can imagine.
You miss more than you'd like to.
And
that's the sacrifice that we make in the profession that we're in, right? So, and my kids are good about that. They get that. So my son, my oldest, was a basketball player. It was actually pretty easy to make it to a lot of his games. Just because them being at night, them being kind of over Christmas break and early in January and a little bit in our off season. My oldest daughter plays volleyball at Lock Haven.
Okay.
I did get to go see her a couple times early in the fall, but then we're into recruiting and our practice and all those kind of things. So I made it to some games and got a chance to do that. My middle daughter is a gymnast. Their season is exactly the same as our season. So I do not see gymnastics meets.
A lot of video. Are they now streaming? You can probably watch some of them.
Yeah, she'll be like, "Hey, Dad, you want to see my bar routine?" Yeah, that'd be great. So that's kind of how I view gymnastics.
Yeah.
And then my youngest is now she did some competitive cheer for a while, but now she's running track. So actually, if things work out right, I may make it to the occasional track meet at Wadsworth here once in a while. But I don't make it to very many just because it's hard. But like I said, they get it. My wife's awesome.
Yeah.
She makes it to everything. So that's kind of how you got to be. And one, having 4 kids just in general, and then 2, being a coach on top of that. It's a challenge for sure.
But do you have a hard time turning off the coach part though? I mean, is that, or can you separate yourself from the dad from the coach?
I typically don't turn off the coach part.
Got it.
Like this is how we're gonna do things, and yeah. So,
But
it doesn't. I don't have a hard time. It just doesn't happen.
It just doesn't happen. Got it. All right, this is the part of our show that we like to learn a little bit more. Obviously, we've talked a lot about your background, but do you have any pregame rituals or superstitions, things that you have to do, Coach, in order for that game to go right?
I am the least superstitious person around. The only thing that I do is I'm usually the last one off the bus, and that's a pretty constant. But it's not really a superstitious thing. It's just something that I always do. I get off the bus last. But I'm far from any superstition.
Got it. Okay. Now, where are you from originally?
St. Thomas, Ontario.
St. Thomas. Oh, wow. Our first Canadian guest, I think, on ZIPS Nation Insider. So one thing we like to ask is about hometown pizza. So we're going to visit you in Canada, in Ontario. Where are we going for pizza? Where are we hitting? What pizza spot are we hitting up?
Man, it's been 30 years since I've been there. I can't. They're probably Little Caesars. I don't know. I can't even help you with that one.
Okay,
either.
so let's. Do you have a favorite pizza place here in town?
I'm not really a pizza.
Okay,
I'm not really that big into pizza.
Coach, got to throw me a.
I know. I'm sorry. Well, and I've been to Twisted Tomato a couple times, and I will say I do like their pizza.
All right, so you spent time in Texas.
I did.
Texas barbecue, Texas Mexican food. Where are we hitting up? What place are we going to in Texas?
El Tapatio in Kingsville, Texas for Mexican for sure.
Okay, El Tapatio.
A Hard 8 in Stephenville, Texas.
Hard 8 barbecue, right?
Heck yeah! If you want barbecue, that's the spot.
I've been Hard 8 in Irving. I know what you're talking about.
The original one is in Stephenville, where Tarleton State is. So we did hit that up when we were in Texas this fall.
And that's where you're ordering by the weight, not by the item.
Correct.
Which is
What's
first
it
time
weigh?
you go to that, you have to think about what you can do.
And you got to get all your meat outside before they even let you come in.
Sure.
So it's pretty awesome.
There you go. So if you have questions about Texas barbecue, we know who to ask.
We can do that.
All right, our last segment. Actually, we have one final question, but let's get to our rapid fire. So rapid fire segment brought to you by 330 To Go, Northeast Ohio's hottest and fastest growing news and entertainment outlet. This is our rapid fire. So this is quick answers, quick questions.
All right.
Sunflower seeds or chewing gum?
Sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seeds. What's your guilty pleasure television? What show do you have to watch?
Chicago PD.
Chicago PD. Mm-hmm. What is one rule in college softball that you would love to change?
Let's just, if it's an intentional walk, let's just give them 4 and go. We don't need to throw the pitches.
So in softball, you have to throw the pitches still.
Yeah, and it's dumb.
So get rid of that.
Yes, and I would also get rid of the pitch clock too, but that's I'm in the minority there.
I don't think that's going anywhere. All right, this is one. So my boys play baseball, and often they're on the same complex as softball games. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite softball cheer or chant?
No, I hate them all. There's no favorites. It's like, please stop. Yes.
Okay, so none. No favorites.
When they're quiet, that's my favorite.
That's your favorite. Yes. Okay. It does look like softball players have much more fun than baseball players with those chants and cheers. So, but no favorites. Okay, if I was to give you 10 pitches against one of our pitchers on the team, how many of those would you turn around right
10.
now? 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. I told my wife I was going to ask you that. She's like, well, don't ask him how many you'd get because you'd get 0. So you turn around on okay.
All of them, yep.
So besides softball, I might know this answer. What is your other favorite sport to watch?
Football.
Football. Oh, I thought maybe it was going to be baseball.
No, but I like all of them. I'm a baseball fan. I'm a football fan. I'm a hockey fan.
Okay, hockey, I get that from Ontario. So what's your football team?
Well, the Detroit Lions.
Detroit Lions, I guess. Okay, yeah. Close enough. Oh,
when growing up in St. Thomas, all we ever saw was the Browns and the Lions.
Okay.
Two teams that at that time when I was growing up, and I don't think anybody wanted to watch either one of them, but
You were in the
it just
minority.
turned into the Lions. So
Got it. All right, final question, Coach. Why should fans be excited about your 2025 women's softball team?
I think it's just a great group of kids to watch. You come out and watch the game, you're going to see the game played at a high level. They're without the cheering that we were just talking about, because we don't do a lot of that, but we are very much engaged in the game. There's constant chatter in the dugout. We tend to play the game fast. We pitch it pretty good, and I think that that it's a product that definitely is worth seeing and worth experiencing, because it's going to be a higher level of athletics than you probably anticipate it being.
I've personally, by the way, great answer, because I agree with you. I've been to a number of softball games, and it is so much fun to watch. I had not been to a women's fast pitch game until maybe 3 seasons ago, and I was blown away by how much fun it is to watch. The players, I mean, we're going to home runs, you can hit home runs, some awesome pitching, fielding. I mean, it is a good time, and we have a great facility here to watch those. So,
and it's fast. It's a fast game.
They do go
I mean,
quick.
we've played games already this year that were, 87 minutes done.
Man.
We've had a few on the other end too, but it's fast. It goes quick.
Goes quick.
So yeah,
goes quick. So a lot of excitement. So thank you, Coach. We're excited about the team, excited about the success that we know you're going to have, and we'll be seeing you there at Lee R. Jackson Field. Thank you so much.
perfect. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.